Let me give it a second for the recording to pop on. So every single class of IPC, I'm going to record. It'll record me going through the notes. It'll record any questions that anybody asks while the class is going on. And the reason why I like to record every IPC class is that that's probably the biggest thing that students have told me in the past they find really useful or really helpful when it comes to keeping track of their assignments or maybe making up any work. If they missed a day or two or they missed a class, they get really worried about understanding the notes, and they really like having that class recording to be able to go back and watch. So at the end of every single class, probably within 15 to 20 minutes of class ending, I upload the recording to YouTube and post a link in the Google Classroom. That way, everybody is able to access it and rewatch the video as much as they want in order to get that information explained to them from me, your teacher. So speaking of the Google Classroom, that's probably going to be your single best friend for the next 8 weeks here in IPC. So let's go ahead and take a look at our Google Classroom here. A lot of you guys have already done a really great job of being on there, looking at the syllabus and the daily assignment and the notes and stuff that have been popping up there. So that is awesome. If you haven't gotten a chance to look at the Google Classroom yet, it should definitely be something that you're checking on a daily basis if you want to keep up with the work in this class. So the syllabus for this class, kind of an overview of a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about today. I'll probably go over it again a little bit at the end, but it's posted right here in this kind of before you begin section. And then underneath that is our class recordings section. So this is where every single class video that I take during our lessons will be posted. Like I said, within 5 to 10 to 15 minutes after class, there'll be a video posted down here that you can watch if you want to re-watch all of the notes again, or re-watch something that you missed, or go back to a specific part that you maybe want to kind of get some more practice with. Every single class recording will be posted in this first section down here. And then we have our next set of sections, which are separated out by week. So right now for you guys, the only thing that you guys should be able to see are what is for me highlighted in purple here, because this gray stuff is stuff that'll be coming up later on in the week. So don't worry about that right now. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, all the way through week 8 will all have your notes and assignments posted on there, showing up as the days move forward. So like, for example, today, the assignment that got posted was I wanted everybody to send me an email with your name and the name of this class, IPC, and a question that you had about this class or school in general or anything else that you wanted to ask me. So I gave you my email address right there. And a lot of you have already sent me emails. So thank you so much if you've done that already. If not, don't worry about it. You have the whole rest of the day to get onto your student Gmail and type up and send me an email. It just is a good way. It's what I like to start off every term with, because it's a good way for you guys to kind of get used to sending me emails and sending me questions if you ever have them. So the main thing that we're going to look at today is this little slideshow that I created to kind of talk about IPC, what it is, who I am, who's this person that's sitting on your computer screen talking to you, and a little bit about some of those really important attendance and daily work kind of policies that we have. So besides, is this class easy? Probably the second most commonly asked question that I got is, what is IPC? So IPC stands for Integrated Physics and Chemistry. It's one science class that kind of covers two different areas of science. We're going to focus a little bit on the physics part at kind of the end of the term, but for the most of the term, we're really going to be focusing in on the C part, the chemistry part. And that's because if you have not taken biology yet here at the Excel Center, a lot of the chemistry stuff kind of ties in closely with some of the biology stuff, which is why I like to focus on it in this class, because biology is kind of my main class that I like to teach. So IPC Integrated Physics and Chemistry here at the Excel Center in the year 2021. So here again is my email. Email is probably one of the best ways to contact me. I check my email at least once a day, every single day, and especially during the evening and night school hours. So between like 1:30 to 6 or 7 p.m., I'm on it constantly, replying to people, sending out reminders, all sorts of stuff like that. So if you have any questions about anything that we ever talk about in the class, my email, which is just my name, michael.stanley@goodwillexcel.org. So it's set up just like your student emails as well. So today we're going to talk a little bit about me. I have maybe one or two questions to ask you guys about yourselves, just kind of get to know some of the people who are in this class. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about these class policies, which again, if this is your second or third or fourth term here at the Excel Center, this might be pretty familiar. But if you're new or if you haven't taken an online class in a while, it's always something I like to go over right at the beginning so that everybody can be kind of on the same page going forward. And then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about what kind of stuff we're going to be learning in this course. What are some of the different subjects that we are going to be covering? Like I said, my name is Michael Stanley. You're free to call me Mr. Stanley or Mr. Michael, or sometimes just Mr. or Sir works for people. I don't really care. All of those are fine by me. I actually originally am from the Austin area. So I moved here when I was with my family when I was like 4 or 5 and grew up all in North Austin. If you know, like the 620 Anderson Mill area, that's where I grew up. So went to elementary, middle, high school, all through here. Graduated from high school in 2010. Went to college at Texas A&M University. So I am dyed-in-the-wool Aggie for sure. I then finished up school at A&M. I got a degree in biology. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do next, but I had a thought, and my thought was that what if instead of being finished with school, I went and did even more school? That sounds like a lot of fun. So that's what I did. I applied to some graduate school programs, which are like specialized school that you can go to after you get a college degree. And I ended up getting accepted to a school called Miami University. Not that Miami, don't get too excited. This is not the University of Miami, which is the fun one in Florida. The Miami that I went to is in Ohio. It's down here in Southwest Ohio, a little bit north. So if you don't know your Ohio geography, Cincinnati is like right down here. So like where the Bengals and the Reds are from, that's Cincinnati. And then Miami of Ohio is like right in this area, kind of here. So I was there for several years doing research projects in biology, dealing with animals and animal behavior and all sorts of cool stuff like that. But after a while, I was done with being in Ohio. For one, I finished up with my degree and graduated, which was one thing. But two, it's just too cold there in the wintertime. Like, remember how the ice storm came here a couple weeks ago and it really sucked and everything shut down and it was bad? That doesn't so much happen in Ohio because they're used to getting ice. But imagine that same kind of temperature and cloudy days but instead of just for a week, it's for like the entire fall and winter time. So from like November to, I don't know, March-ish. Like I saw they just got some more snow there a couple weeks ago. So from December, or for like October, November to March, it's just super cold and gray and drizzly all the time. And I could not take it anymore. I had to get out. Ohio wasn't all bad though. I had some fun memories there. And I also ended up meeting the girl who would eventually become my wife. So we got married in Ohio. This is my wife, Gabby. She's about to finish up her PhD in microbiology, which we were very excited about. So if you think I'm smart, she's like at least 3 times smarter than I am. And so we decided to move back to Texas. It's where my family is from. She always really enjoyed visiting down here when we were dating. She was excited and I was excited not to have to deal with the freezing temperatures anymore. And we were more than happy to make the trade-off for 100 degrees in the summertime. We also wanted to move down back to Austin and be close to my family and especially my parents, because we moved back a little over a year ago. It was 2019 May. So, oh my God, it's almost been 2 years already. Woof, time flies. So we also want to move down because my wife was pregnant at the time. And so shortly after we moved down here, she gave birth to little baby Charlotte, who was born in July of 2019. Obviously, she doesn't exactly look like that anymore. Oh my God, this picture is almost a year old now. So we took this picture last year, close to her first birthday. And then I found a little bit more recent picture from Christmas this year, where we made the mistake of giving her what ended up being one of her favorite toys first, which meant that we had to convince her to go like open the other presents because it meant that she couldn't play with the little.
She's nice.
So yeah, she's super smart and she's walking and almost not quite talking, but she can communicate with us at least pretty well. And so she's gonna turn 2 over the summer. So by the time that school starts up again next year, we'll have a 2-year-old on our hands, for better or for worse. So that's a little bit about me and who I am. I always like to kind of go through that just to put a little bit more kind of information behind this face that you see talking to you out of a computer screen or TV screen or whatever it is that you're dealing with. So normally if we were like all together in person in a room, I'd have everybody go around and kind of talk all about them and like how long they've been here and what they like to do and don't like to do in school and stuff like that. I'm not going to do all of this right now, but I do want to know about how long that people have been here at the Excel Center. So feel free to either unmute yourself or you could just type it in the chat if you want. But about how long have you been at the Excel Center? Is this your first term here? Did you start in January? Did you start last August or September? Did you start a year ago? How long have you all been here? So take a couple seconds, either write it down in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself and talk out loud.
It's Shannon. I've been here at the Excel Center since January. I started in January.
Oh, nice. So this is your third term here. Cool. Awesome. All right.
This is my third term.
Third term? Okay, so you also started like back in January?
I started last April, and this term is my last term.
Woo, excellent, Mr. Bueno. Yeah, I remember you started kind of close to around when I started.
Yes, sir.
Way, way back in the day. Very cool.
This is also my third and last term. I started in February.
Oh, dang. Cranking it out. That's awesome. All right. So it sounds like this maybe isn't anybody's very, very first term here at the Excel Center, which is great. But some people who maybe just started earlier in 2021. So welcome everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. Like I said, today might be kind of just a review of some of this important stuff. But like I was saying earlier, if you're able to stay on top of your attendance and your classwork and everything like that, then you should be able to pass this class by the end of the year, no problem. So about this class, about IPC a little bit in general. So science is all about studying the world around us. Scientists are obsessed with getting answers to what is happening in our natural world. Either what's happening at like the person or animal level or material level, or like the super big picture planets and suns and stuff, or down at the very, very tiny level with particles and molecules and atoms and all sorts of stuff like that. It all falls under the range of science. So in this class, specifically in IPC, we're going to talk a little bit about thinking like a scientist, thinking about what is the world made of. So what is the building blocks of kind of everything that's around us. And we're going to talk a lot about things like molecules and chemicals. So how do they stick together? How do they come apart? What happens when they react with each other? How do things move? So physics is all about studying the movement of different objects. So we're going to look at how do we measure how things are moving and what are some of the different laws that determine the way that things move. Sort of the basic forces that cause things to either speed up, slow down, stop, or start moving. So all of that kind of falls under this very, very kind of general idea of science and IPC. So the main thing that I kind of wanted to cover and remind everybody about is the basic attendance policy. Since we're doing all this crazy online stuff, we only have those 2 days a week that we're actually meeting on the computer in person, quote unquote. But you're still required to have Monday through Thursday attendance, especially because, or Monday through Friday, sorry, excuse me. Especially because at the Excel Center, we have a policy where you have to earn an 80% attendance rate in order to earn credit. What that means is that you have to come to 80% of the classes or do 80% of your attendance. So for this term, I think we're going to talk about in a second. That means you can only miss like 5 or 6 days of attendance. There's no makeup. So in the past, we used to keep track of it with minutes, and we had stuff called AIM where people could make up their minutes. That's not happening this term. If you miss a day, then you miss a day, and there's not much that you can do to make it up. So if at all possible, you're expected to attend our scheduled Google Meet meetings every day that class is in session. So in this class, we are a Tuesday, Thursday class that meets from 2:20 to 3:40. And so on every Tuesday and Thursday, you're expected to be here in this Google Meet going through the notes with me. Obviously, that's not always possible. I know a lot of people have a lot of outside forces that will cause you to have to either miss part of the day or miss a full day here or there. And that's okay, and we'll talk about why that's okay in a second. But if you want to do the very best that you can in this class, the way to stay on top and stay ahead is by coming to as many of these Google Meet meetings as possible. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, please do your very, very best to be here. That'll put you in the best position to pass this class with flying colors. On the off meet days, so on those Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, you are still required to earn attendance. And the way you do that is by doing the daily assignment that gets posted up each day. Talk about that a little bit more in a second. But as long as you log on to the Google Classroom and do something for this class on that day, you'll get attendance counted for that day. If you are going to be absent one day, if something like dramatic happens in your life, like In the past, people have had things like car accidents or loved ones suddenly die, especially with all this COVID stuff going on. Unfortunately, it's happening more than normal. Please do your best to let your life coach know. That way they can reach out to all of your teachers and let us know, hey, this person might not be there today. They've got some really intense circumstances going on. So if you think you're going to miss like a whole day of school and not be able to log on and do anything, do your best to at least reach out to your life coach and let them know why that's happening. So you need 80% attendance, and you can do that by attending those Google Meet meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays and completing your daily assignments. So in term 5, the way that it shakes out is that if you have more than 5 absences, if you have 6, 7, 8 absences, you will not gain credit for this class. Even if you have a 99% in the class, you turned in all your work, you did all your worksheets, but you missed too many days, you missed more than 5 days, then that class is not going to count. That credit will not count on your transcript, and you may have to take the class again in order to get that credit. Obviously, no one wants that to happen. We want everybody that takes these classes to do well and pass and be able to get that credit for their record. So again, the best way to make sure that you get your attendance and that you pass is to check your Google Classroom and do an assignment every day. So even on the days where we meet as a class, I'll still post daily assignments on that day so that if people can't make it for whatever reason, or if you miss, something happens and you're not able to make class, you can still do that assignment and earn the attendance credit for that day. So as long as you're getting on and doing something on a daily basis on the Google Classroom, then you will still be able to earn that attendance and not end up getting too many absences by the end of the term. Again, it's 80% is the cutoff. So if you have 2 or 3 absences over the course of the next 8 weeks, no big deal. You should still be doing fine. If you start to get higher, 5, 6, 7, then you may be in danger of not earning credit. One great way to keep up with your number of absences is on Skyward. Skyward will tell you, hey, you have this many absences for this class, or hey, you are marked absent on this day for IPC. I've had people email me before and be like, hey, Mr. Stanley, I did that daily assignment, but it still says I'm absent on Skyward. And I can say, oh, yep, you sure did. That's my mistake. Let me go back and fix it. You can also feel free to just email me and be like, hey, do I have any absences in this class? And I'll be able to look and be like, oh yeah, you're absent on this day and this day, but you only have 2 so far, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. So again, as long Monday through Friday, you're logging on, you're coming to the Google Meets, and you're doing those daily assignments each day, then you will be in perfect shape by the end of the term 5. So something happens. You're not able to come to class today, and you don't get a chance to turn anything in, and you end up getting an absence. That's okay. It's not a huge deal. It's definitely not the end of the world. But that daily assignment that you missed, you do still have to go back and turn it in. Every single daily assignment in this class counts for a grade. Sometimes if it's a super basic one, like I posted today, send me an email. It might only be 1 or 2 or 5 points. But as we start to get later into the semester and we start doing some bigger worksheets and bigger types of charts and stuff, it could be 7, 10, 15 points for an assignment. But every single one has a grade associated with it. So if you do miss a class for whatever reason, again, not a huge deal, but it's up to you then to go into the Google Classroom and see what it is that you missed. I'm more than happy to take work late. Every assignment that I put on the classroom will have a due date attached to it. That's essentially just to remind you, hey, make sure to turn this in by the due date in order to get your attendance credit. But if you don't, you can still turn it in later. I am more than happy to accept late work, and I will not count any points off, even if you turn it in late. So even if an assignment is past the due date, you can still turn it in late for full credit. You won't get any points off. So as long as you go back and turn it in at some point in the term, I'll be more than happy to give you a grade and update the grade book. For the most part, most assignments can be made up on your own time. So you don't have to get them done like right away if you miss it. Most of them you can do on your phone, on your computer at home, no problem. However, if you turn Monday's assignment in on a Wednesday, that doesn't give you attendance credit for Monday. Whenever you turn in an assignment, it'll only count for attendance the day that you turn it in. So if you turn in Monday and Wednesday's assignment both on Wednesday, you'll get Wednesday attendance credit, but you will not get credit for Monday. You missed Monday, you didn't turn anything in, and so your attendance won't be counted. I'll still be happy to grade your Monday work and turn it back to you, let you know what you missed, but it'll only count for attendance on the day that it gets turned in. So please, if you do ever miss a day, again, not a huge deal. You can definitely make up that work. Please get it turned in to me whenever you can, because until you do, it'll sit in the gradebook as a 0. And just having a couple zeros in there can really hurt your grade. It's not good to have too many zeros piling up. So any makeup work, any work that you missed during the week, please get it turned in when you can. I'll be happy to take it. I won't take any points off. I just want to get it graded and turned back to you so that it can count for your grade. All right. Shannon, you got a question?
Yeah, so sorry, Mr. Stanley. I have a class that starts 10 minutes 10 minutes before your class ends. So I've already emailed them. So if I just click out of the class, excuse me, it's not intentional. I'm just going to my other class on the Excel thing.
All right. Yep. No worries. And yeah, I mean, a lot of times, honestly, we probably won't make it to the very, very end of the class, especially today. Should be a little bit shorter one. But yeah, if you ever do find yourself either because of internet issues or you have something going on during this class time, that's okay. Even if you just log on for half of the class in order to hear some of the notes, that can still count as attendance. So don't worry if you log on and then log off and then log back on and then get logged off again, or if you have to leave early to go do something. I'm mostly just glad that you're here. And I'm not going to take attendance away from you if you weren't here for like 100% of the class time. But thank you for letting me know, Shannon. I really do appreciate it.
Welcome.
All right. So logging on every day, doing those daily assignments, getting them turned in, especially on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, because that's the only way that you can earn attendance on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, is by doing those daily assignments. All right, so all of your assignments and all of your notes and everything for this class will be posted on the Google Classroom. So for each assignment, there are a couple different ways that you can finish it. The easiest one and most common one that most people like to do is by filling out either the Google form or the Google Doc that is posted on the assignment. So most of the assignments are kind of like worksheet style ones where it's a series of questions they have to answer. And I'll show you an example of what one looks like in a little bit. But each assignment has a Google form and a Google Doc version posted. That's because some people I know like to fill out the Google form. It's like an online form version of the assignment where you can go in and like just point in your answers fairly easily. There's also the Google Doc, which is more like a regular kind of worksheet. Like it looks like a piece of paper, but you can type in your answers and the blanks if you need to. So a lot of people like doing it that way. Some people don't. Some people still prefer the old school pen to paper, or maybe they're having some issues with their computer loading a Google form or a Google Doc. So if you have a printer at home and you want to print out the worksheet and write down your answers on it, that's totally fine as well. But I know a lot of people also don't have a printer, but they still like to do it pen and paper style. So you're also more than welcome to write down your answers on just a blank sheet of paper, like this one here. Write down your answers on it. Make sure it's clear which answers go with which questions and that your name is at the top of it so I know who's turning it in. But you can also complete your homework that way as well. So either doing it online through the computer on a Google form or Google Doc, printing off the worksheet and filling it out at home, or just writing down your answers to the worksheet on a piece of blank paper. Once you have written down your answers, either online or on a piece of paper, there are then 3 different ways that you can turn in your work to me. If you wrote your answers down on a piece of paper, make sure to take a picture of it on your phone. You can then, if you did the Google form or the Google Doc, you should be able to turn that in directly on the computer. If you do the Google form, there's literally a button on the bottom that says submit that you click on, and it sends a notification to me that this person completed the worksheet. You can also turn in the Google Doc on the Google Classroom. That's an easy way to do it as well. Or if you took a picture on your phone, you can upload that picture onto the Google Classroom as well. So that's the first main way, is submitting it through the Google Classroom in some way. You can also email me a picture of your work to my email, michael.stanley@goodwillexcel.org. You can also send me a text message with your work. So if you text me a photo of your homework, I'm more than happy to accept it that way as well. My work cell number is 512-531-5457. And not only do I get that on my computer, but I also get it sent to my phone as well. So all of these are totally valid ways of turning in your work. Again, I don't really care how you get it to me, as long as you get it to me and it's clear and I can make out what your answers are and what questions you're answering. I'll be more than happy to take it and give you a grade for it. All right, everything that I'd like to do in my classroom, I want to make it as easy as possible for you guys to complete and turn in your homework. It makes it better for you and it makes it easier for me. So completing it online, writing it down on paper, and then either uploading it on the Google Classroom, sending it to my email, or sending it to my phone. All right, we'll go through some examples of what some of the stuff looks like in a little bit. But does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns so far about attendance or turning in work or anything about the Google Classroom type stuff that we've talked about so far? Any questions?
No question.
Yeah, no question.
All right, cool. All right, so again, a little bit of overview about kind of what this class is going to be about. The C in IPC stands for chemistry. So chemistry is all about looking down at like the molecular level, about how the tiny little atoms and molecules that make up our world interact with each other. So we're going to talk about atoms. We're going to talk about the different phases that matter can come in. So matter is just a fancy science term for like stuff. So stuff can be solid or liquid or gas, and that causes the atoms to be arranged a little bit differently. We're going to talk about atoms and all the different stuff that makes them up, from the protons and the neutrons in the middle here to the electrons swirling around the outside. We'll talk about how atoms interact with each other, how they bond with each other, what types of matter we can make with our atoms, and how we can use the information on this big chart here, which is called the periodic table, to learn more about what types of stuff go into each atom. So that's kind of what we're going to be going over on the chemistry side of things. And then on the physics side of things, the last couple weeks of the term, we'll talk about movement and the different laws that determine movement. We'll talk about the different ways that we can measure things. So we can measure the mass or the distance and length or the volume of something. We can also measure density, how much space an object takes up. And if we get to it, we'll talk a little bit about the different ways that we can move energy from place to place. So that is a little bit of the chemistry and the physics that we'll cover in IPC. All right, so a couple different things I wanted to mention before we wrapped up. Like I said, these notes, these Welcome to IPC notes, are available on the Google Classroom if you ever want to go back and reread them to learn a little bit more about the attendance policy. There's also the syllabus that I posted here for the very first thing that I posted in the class that I know some people got a chance to look at already. It basically covers a lot of the stuff that we already went over in that slideshow, just kind of in a more condensed version. So up top, it's got a lot of good information about my name, my email, my phone number. It has our Google Meet link, which I'll also make sure to send out a reminder every day before class starts with the link on it, but it's also down here. And it has our class times, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2:20. A little bit about the class itself, and then some online policy kind of sections. The first part about the Google Classroom. Obviously, all of you have been able to get into the Google Classroom so far, so great job. Again, we have our virtual classroom that you guys are in right now over the Google Meet, which is going to be happening every single Tuesday and Thursday for the next 8 weeks, starting at 2:20. And then again, very, very important point here. Even though we're not meeting on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, there's still going to be assigned work that you have to turn in order to be counted for attendance. So every single morning at like 12:15, 12:05 in the morning is when all of the new stuff for that day will be posted. So you have the entire day to work on that assignment, and it's all due by 11:59 p.m. that night. So as long as you complete a daily assignment sometime in that 12:05 to 11:59 time period, then your town attendance will be counted for that day. So as long as you're checking your student email and checking your Google Classroom every day, then you should be in good shape to keep up with those daily assignments. And again, if you miss more than 5 days, you will likely not gain credit for the class, even if you have a passing grade. So 5 days seems like a lot, but over the course of 8 weeks, that can add up very, very quickly. That's missing just one single entire week of class can knock you out of getting any credit. So make sure you're coming to these Google classes and logging on to the classroom and doing your daily assignments, and you'll be in good shape by the end of the term. There's little reminders about turning in your work, about how you can fill out the Google form, the Google Doc, print out the worksheet on your own, or label a blank sheet of paper and write your answers on there. You can then take a picture of your work on your phone or just submit it directly onto the Google Classroom with the Google form or doc. And then down here is also my email address and my work phone number that you can text pictures of your work to as well. One more thing that I wanted to mention has to do with grading. So all of the main grading that I do is through the Google Classroom. So you'll turn in your work either there or somewhere else, but I'll assign you a grade and give you a little comment about what you missed and what the correct answers were through Google Classroom. So you'll see all your grades posted up on your Google Classroom. However, that does not represent your final official grade in the class. In order to see that, you have to log on to your Skyward account. Skyward is where your official class grades will be located. I don't have my Google Classroom set up so that it shows you a final total grade for the whole class. So Skyward is the only place that you can see that. It is the official site for your grades. Your Google Classroom is just kind of an outline that helps me keep track of what everybody's turned in and what everybody's grades are so far. So if you are already using Skyward regularly, that is awesome. If you're not, or you forget how, or you're not sure how to log into Skyward, reach out to your life coach and they can help guide you through the process. It's a really good app on your phone. And it lets you check your grades and your attendance for each class that you're in each term. So that is our syllabus. Again, it has all of that kind of reminder information on it, and you can always access it. It's posted under the IPC syllabus tab here in the classwork section of our Google Classroom. Let's see. So 2 more things that I wanted to mention before we kind of wrap up for today. The first one is that, like I mentioned, for most assignments, including your first big assignment, which will be on Friday, or kind of the first one that's similar to all the other assignments that you have, is going to be a syllabus quiz. So on Friday, you'll have a quiz about this super basic information that we talked about in the class already. So on the Google Classroom, there's 2 different ways that you can do it. Most people like using the Google form. It's easier to use on your phone for people who are doing a lot of your schoolwork on your phone. If that is the case for you, hopefully you have a computer or a Chromebook or something that you can work off of. If you still are if you only have your phone to use, please reach out to me or a life coach and we can get you set up with a Chromebook from the school that works a lot better. But for Google Forms, it literally comes up in a version like this, where you can type in your answers to each question as you go through. Sometimes it'll be short answer questions like this one. Sometimes it'll be multiple choice or check boxes to fill in. And then you go through all that and you hit the submit button. And when you hit submit, 2 things happen. One, it sends me a notification saying, hey, Betsy just turned in the syllabus quiz at this time, which is good for me because it allows me to keep track of people turning in assignments and getting attendance. It'll also send you a copy of all of the answers that you gave. That way, if I ever have a problem with accessing your quiz again, or if I think that you didn't turn it in, you can say, no, Mr. Stanley, I did turn it in. See, it sent me a copy of my answers at 1:49 p.m. on Tuesday. So that way you know I did it then. So you hit the submit button. It tells me that you turned it in, and it gives you your answers in a separate email. Unfortunately, the one thing that it does not do when you hit that submit button is that it does not tell the Google Classroom that you turned in the Google form. So a lot of times people get a little bit tripped up at the beginning of the year because they're like, Mr. Stanley, I turned in the syllabus quiz, but it still says it's missing on the Google Classroom. That's because the Google Classroom and the Google Forms aren't very good at talking to each other. So even though you turned it in, the Google Classroom still says it's missing. All you have to do is log back onto the Google Classroom, hit the turn in button, and it'll update it to show that you got it turned in. If you don't do that, it's fine. I got that notification email from the form, so your attendance will still be counted. Some people don't like the Google form. They'd rather do the Google Doc version. It's set up more like a traditional sheet of paper, traditional worksheet, where you can just write your answers underneath the different questions. So you'd write them in just like you were writing them in on a sheet of paper, only you're typing instead of writing. Google Doc is nice because once you're finished, you can go back and turn it in directly to the Google Classroom, which will tell the classroom that you turned in your assignment, and it'll show it to me when I go to look for it. Whichever one you want to do, it is totally up to you. For the most part, I know people like using the Google form a whole lot, but if you prefer doing the Google Doc version, that is totally fine too. Either way, I'll be able to check it, go through your answers, tell you what you missed, and give you a grade. So again, that's sort of the main way and the easiest way for most people to turn in their work. If you still would rather fill it out pen and paper style and upload a picture of your work to me or to the Google Classroom directly, that is totally okay as well. One final thing that I want to mention that's a little bit different from a lot of the other assignments that you'll see us going through this term is that this week is the last week of the Excel Center collecting writing samples from students. So if you didn't hear about this or if you didn't take a class in term 4, every year in the springtime, the Excel Center likes to collect handwriting samples from students just to kind of see where people are in terms of their writing ability when they're not being helped by like a computer or a smartphone or something like that. So Thursday's assignment, and I'll talk about this again on Thursday. I want you to, on a sheet of paper, one piece of paper, handwrite about this particular topic, which is your past experience with science classes at the Excel Center. Have you taken any here? If not, what classes have you taken and what have you liked? If you have, what did you like learning about science? Did you find anything super boring or hard to understand? And then also, is there anything about this class that you're excited to learn about or anything that you're hoping we'll talk about in this class? So everybody, there's no online option for it. Everybody has to do it handwriting style, pen or pencil to paper. A couple important things to note that, again, I'll make sure to mention again on Thursday is that in order to turn it in and in order for me to submit it to the Excel Center, you have to make sure that your full name, so your full first and last name, no initials or not just one name, and the date are at the top of the paper. So if you're writing it today, you would say Michael Stanley 4-6-21. So put those two things at the top of your paper. Try to write about a page or so, so just one single page, top to bottom. So feel free to use examples and details and stuff about science classes that you've taken before and what you're interested in for this class. And then again, you can take a picture, attach it to this assignment, send it to me via email or text, however way works best for you. So I wanted to mention this right now, so when we get to Thursday morning and this gets posted, you're not like, whoa, what is this? How am I supposed to do this? Just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up. But again, I'll talk about it again on Thursday as kind of a reminder. If you're able to do this, please do so. We really appreciate it, both as teachers and our bosses at the Excel Center really like getting all of these writing samples. You're not going to be graded on them. I'm not going to read it and be like, oh, this grammar isn't very good, or oh, they did bad spelling. If you turn it in, you're going to get the full 5 points that it's worth. It's just for us to compare over time with yourself and with other students and kind of see where you're at in terms of your ability to write on a page. So that is coming up on Thursday. So again, I'll make sure to remind you again when we get to Thursday. Tomorrow's assignment is very similar to today's, only instead of sending me an email, I want you to send me a text message. So don't do it today because, again, this is supposed to count for your assignment tomorrow. So it'll get posted tomorrow morning. I just want you to text me your name, this class, IPC, and another question you have to my school phone number. That way, you'll have that kind of stored in your phone if you ever need to text me again something in the future. All right. But that is pretty much everything that you should need to know in order to kind of get hyped, get ready, get started for this final term of the 2020-2021 school year. Does anybody have any final questions about turning in stuff, completing assignments, keeping up with attendance, anything that we can cover before we wrap it up here today?
You said something about the recording.
Mm-hmm. So
Where will we find that?
it'll be right, let's see where we're at. It'll be right here under the class recording section of your Google Classroom. So if you go to the Google Classroom and you go to the classwork tab, which for me is up here on a phone, I think it might be at the bottom. And there's the before you begin section, and then there's the class recordings section. So right after every class ends, I go in, I upload the video, and I post it here in this section. So you'll be able to rewatch any of the material that you either missed or that you want to watch through again.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. And you'll see it after we end class today, because that'll probably be the very next thing that I do. But I'll always label it with the date that the recording happened and sort of the title of the notes that we went over to make it easier for you guys to find it later on if you need to.